Ciaccona is going to be driving by your street soon blasting this banger. With many people from the looks of it staying in their homes because of either low funds due to Zani or saving funds for Lupa or Kartathea. Despite that though, I think she'll be a unit you'll want at some point. Let me explain. This will be because of one major reason, which is Debuff Utility, and that links to team flexibility. But as usual, there's always a catch, so let's talk about it. I have mentioned that debuffs are a thing in this game and are being integrated regardless of how I or we feel about the process of it. We are seeing characters who get more powerful from those debuffs being applied, and that is seen most recently in Zani, but has had presence ever since 2.0 in things like the 4-star Renacida craftable weapons. Ciaccona is going to be the first sustained off-field applicator of both Erosion and Frazzle debuffs, and that means she'll be having wider access in more teams as we move forward in Wuthering waves. She'll also be the first to more easily stack debuffs, as 2 of them are tied to one character. Since Erosion is typically tied to Arrow and Frazzle to Spectro, that means she could act as a sub-in as an amplifying support role similar to someone like Mortefi or Sanhua. But again, not limited to only one type of damage, because she can apply either Frazzle or Erosion. She could be an applicator and potential sub DPS depending on her numbers for someone like Zani, who gets big damage from Frazzle, and could double for someone like Kartathea if she happens to utilize something like Erosion for massive multipliers on certain attacks. Naturally though, Ciaccona is going to be best serving arrow damage sources because of her 24% arrow damage buff tied to her solo concert mechanic. But it's always nice when characters have potential for other avenues, which she may have due to her ability to apply Frazzle. As for team flexibility, Ciaccona also may solve some other issues that I've seen people sort of get in a tizzy about in regards to Zani's teams and her playstyle. Some people feel like Rover is too difficult or is clunky to play with Zani because of the Frazzle application being most effectively applied via quick swapping. Phoebe alleviates that a bit because of her quicker stack accumulation, but you still require field time for Phoebe to apply Frazzle. Ciaccona could be watered down to just a set and forget unit if your main goal and benefit from her are the debuff applications, meaning you're needing to worry less about the technical quick swapping skill, making things less stressful to you. Obviously we'll need to see how that plays in practice, but from a pre-release look, I think her liberation is going to be her biggest selling point in my opinion. But of course there's another side too, because her application can be limited to the AoE and positioning of enemies if you use her as that set and forget applicator. This isn't as big of a deal for Erosion since all of her kit has a way to inflict erosion, while Frazzle is only for her liberation. Consistent upkeep or high stacks may be harder to continue if you're trying to only bank on her liberation being that kind of set and forget thing, and that doubly applies for Frazzle application. For big enemies like the Dragon of Dirge, it may be less of an issue, but something like the Sentry boss when it flies in the air, Fleur-de-Lis or Hecate during their off-field attacks may provide some frustrating moments. You also need to consider mobs that frequently move around like the Chop Chops, Diggy Duggy, Junt Rocks, Abyssal Gladius, and especially the Vitrium Dancers. Her CC capabilities will come in handy in that regard. I think in practice though, it won't be as big of a problem, but it's something to think about as we lead up to Ciaccona. Regardless though, since she's taking 2 debuff roles, that expands her future team compositions to not just specific types of attackers like how Mortefi only buffs heavy and is best utilized there. Ciaccona will offer a bit more staying power due to the fact that she's the first unit to double dip into debuffs, and I hope we see this more often so that options aren't so limited. Since 4 stars are somewhat off the table, this is probably the next best thing. Less pulls too, so it's saving your currency or hard cash. But are you going to be picking up the charming Ciaccona at any point? Thank you for letting me take your time, sub, and be safe out there.